be like this. Admit it and all, I also had an oral exam. So this is not the time to be beating yourself about it. Take these tips and run with them. You'll come back here with a testimony. So let's not waste any time. Let's get into this video.
Now listen, daughter, pay attention, pray and listen, hear your father.
What's good, beautiful people? Welcome to my channel. If you're seeing this face for the very first time, my name is Shella. If you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for coming back. I truly appreciate your support. Now today I'm going to be talking about the oral exam, the dreaded exam. Whether you have scraped your way and tried to write the board exam and just came a little bit short of passing, or you actually worked so hard to pass but it really didn't work out for you, whatever your scenario is, you have come to the right video. I also suggest that you go and watch this video if you haven't done that. Tip number 1: go over the paper that you wrote. So the paper that you wrote that you got an oral for, I know that when you write board exams, you have access to your paper. So that very same paper, go over it like your life depends on it. What do I mean? I mean, go over every single question, because now, you've got the time and you've got the material. So go over it, like make your own memo, right? Do the whole paper and study the whole paper. The reason for this is that there's no new paper that is being set for oral exams. So the very same paper that you wrote is what you're going to be asked on. So go over that paper like your life depends on it. Okay, that's like tip number 1. That's like the biggest thing. Number 2, go over the scope that you receive from the Legal Practice Council. Now, if you have an oral exam for paper 2 and paper 4, I think your approach to the oral exam will be slightly different than that of paper 1 and paper 3, because with paper 2 and 4 you have a lot of entries that you put down. You've got your journals on bookkeeping, you've got the L&D account on paper 2, which is almost impossible to do orally, and they will not ask you, they will not give you theory and ask you to put in, to draw up the L&D account, because that's not possible with an oral exam. But what they will do is they will ask you the theory behind the entries. So you need to know why certain things are entered in a certain way, even for bookkeeping. So your approach when, preparing for your oral exam is slightly different if it's for paper 2 and paper 4. But if it's for paper 1 and paper 3, which has like a lot of theory, they are definitely going to ask you the theory, obviously, because you have to verbalize your answer. There's no writing with the oral exam. So when you are preparing for paper 2 and paper 4, please be mindful of the fact that you can't just say, well, since I won't be able to drop an L&D account, let me skip that section. You can't skip that section, because you need to know the theory behind the different entries. On top of that, going over the scope will help you in a sense that you won't be caught off guard. Remember, as much as you are focusing on the paper that you wrote, you must also show that you've got knowledge of what's happening in the particular subject. So focusing on just the paper is not going to help you. That's where the scope comes in, so that you, even though you have focused on the paper, you also have like an idea as to what's going on. You have knowledge surrounding those topics that were in the paper. Does that make sense? So for example, if the paper, if you got a question relating to the calculation of damages, know the theory behind it, know the formula, because that's what you're going to be asked in the oral exam, as opposed to, calculating, like making actual calculations, but you'll be asked the theory behind it. And the last and final tip is learn how to verbalize your answers. Now, you've got your paper that you wrote and you have made a memo and you have made notes. So start practicing them verbally. Say them out loud. Most people fail oral exams not because they didn't know the content, but because they failed to verbalize their answers. They failed to articulate what they know. And that's what essentially they need to hear. They need to hear that you know it. And sometimes it's not that you don't know it, it's that you just don't know how to articulate yourself accurately. So do yourself this favor and just Practice saying out your answers loud and clear. Practice in front of a mirror. Record yourself, whatever it is that will help you, say out the answers out loud and remember them. That is going to help you tons. And that also just builds your confidence. Like when you get to the oral exam, if you have practice verbalizing your answers, you won't get there and just like be shocked because you will be expected to speak. So, just verbalize it and familiarize yourself, with the content and saying it out loud, because that's exactly how the oral exam is going to be happening. It's going to be happening with you verbalizing your answers and saying them out loud. And that is it. Those are my top 3 tips to passing the oral exam. I'm not just saying this because I've heard somebody else say it or it has worked for somebody else. This is what worked for me. When I got these tips, when I had an oral exam, I literally just wanted to die because the paper that I had an oral for, I had failed it previously. And now to get an oral, that's like so discouraging. So I literally just wanted to like throw myself in a ditch and not wake up from that. It felt like a nightmare. But I made sure that I took these tips seriously and I did as instructed. So I did the paper and I, read over the coursework, just to supplement what was on the paper so that I'm not caught off guard in the oral exam. And then the last thing that I did was just, practiced out my answers verbally in front of a mirror, and I passed. Today I am admitted and you will be too. So don't give up. Don't feel discouraged. This is the time where your failure, this is not even a failure. This is the time where you're supposed to be motivated. Don't let this be a sign of inadequacy or your inability to pass. Nah. Don't think like that. Let this be a motivation for you to do well because you are so close to being admitted. The fact that you got an oral means you did not fail. And let me tell you, there are people who have failed and you are not one of them. So grab this opportunity with both hands. But before I end off this video, I just wanted to share just general tips relating to oral exam. And this is like you presenting yourself to the examiners, and the first thing that I would highly recommend is dressing appropriately. I know most of us look like I don't even want to say it. We look so bad when we write exams. We just wear like whatever, tracksuit pants and just whatever because we're just writing exams. But when it comes to oral exams, you need to dress professionally. Dress like you're going for an interview or you're attending court. Dress like you're going to be in the midst of your future colleagues, because you really are. Those people who are conducting your oral exam are essentially your future colleagues. Once you pass that oral exam and you get admitted, you guys are colleagues. So present yourself well by dressing appropriately. Secondly, arriving on time. I can't stress this enough. You don't want to be going into your oral exam rushing, huffing and puffing, trying to catch your breath. That does not leave a good impression on your examiners. And number 2, when you don't have like a chance to calm down, everything just like goes out your brain. So don't let that be your situation when you write your oral examinations. So arrive on time. I also arrived on time. My exam was actually I can't remember what time it was, but I arrived super early, probably like 40 minutes before, because I just wanted to sit down, calm down, gather my thoughts. And my exam actually happened earlier than it was supposed to. And I think because I was the last one, I think my examiners were also happy because they got to go home a little bit early. So arrive early. And then the last tip, be polite and courteous. Like the oral exam doesn't feel so much like, how interviews are so daunting and all of that. The oral exam is literally them wanting you to pass, because this honestly is an opportunity for you to pass. If you think about it, if you had failed, then you would have failed. But the LPC is literally taking out time, taking out resources. There are examiners who are going to, try to make you pass. Literally, they're trying to make you pass. Because remember, the low pass rate also doesn't look good on the LPC. I'm not saying right on that, but I'm saying that the examiners are not really out to get you. Examiners are actually there to help you pass because you got an oral, which means that you did not fail. If you had failed, then you failed. There is no second chance unless, writing again in the next sitting. But if you got an oral exam, that's actually like a chance to redeem yourself. So use it wisely. Use it wisely by presenting yourself in the best possible way. So be courteous, be polite. You might run into these people in practice, you might not, but say you do and they remember you. You don't want to be that person who was so rude during their oral exam. And you're most probably not going to pass if you are rude. Nobody likes a rude person. So just present yourself well, be courteous, and be polite. And I think you should be okay for your exams. Make sure that you prepare adequately and don't think about this as a failure, because it really isn't. Like, if you want to know what a fail is, watch my previous video. You will know. A fail is you having to write in the next sitting, not an oral exam. So take this opportunity, grab it with both hands, and come back to this video and testify that you have passed your oral exam, because I too was in your shoes, so I know exactly how you feel. I was in your shoes. I know exactly how you feel, and I can tell you that it really isn't the end of the world, but rather the beginning of your testimony. One day you'll be able to motivate people like I am motivating you right now. When I was going through it didn't feel like I'd be motivating people, but look at me today. So take those tips, take them to heart, and practice them. You will come back with a testimony. Come back with a testimony. While you're at it, scroll down, look down, and like this video for me. It helps a great deal. And subscribe. I know a lot of you don't know that you're not even subscribed. Check, look down, and subscribe to this channel. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope that you found it insightful. I wish you all the best with your oral exam. May the Lord crown your efforts. Until my next video, I'm sending you tons of love and light. Bye.